In this video, we're going to look at editing the animation we made with FacePuppet by adding additional keyframes. In the timeline, we can see the entire sequence that we've recorded for our expressions and our head and our eyeballs. Being able to add keyframes is going to allow us to adjust the result that we have so far. Let's go to frame 150 and double-click in the muscle column. This is going to create a keyframe. It also opens the face key window. Now let's go to frame 0 and click on one of the expressions you see in the face key window. You'll see it update in the interface and you'll see a keyframe created at frame 0. We can click on any of these expressions and it'll update. Now I'm going to go to the drop down and select the angry section and pick an angry face. Now we can use the expressiveness slider here to adjust how much of an effect the expression has on the character. Now as I go through the sequence here, I think I like the face so far, but let's continue the animation. I'm going to go to frame 361 or thereabouts, double click in the muscle section. Now let's create a keyframe in between these two keyframes with a different expression. We'll do angry 11, adjust the expressiveness slider, and this will give us an area in the animation where he exposes his teeth for a few frames. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now the guy he is fighting is actually to his right. So let's make sure that he's looking towards the guy he's actually fighting. So I'm going to double click in the head section, make a keyframe, and then I'm going to go back to the start of the sequence. I'm going to go to the muscle tab. I'm going to set it up so we can do the head orientation. And then I'm just going to rotate the head and it'll create a keyframe. So now his head is turned in a direction so he's looking at his opponent throughout the sequence. Now let's look at these eyes. So there is some room for improvement on the eyes. I see the left eye is wandering a bit. Let's go to around frame 400 and double click and make a keyframe in the eyeball section. Then go to the first frame, clear our selection, and then select the eyes. And now we can actually move them around. So I'm going to position them where I want them on the first frame. That's going to create a keyframe. Now I'm going to go to around frame 50, deselect one of the eyes. Let's go ahead and deselect the left eye. And then I'm going to move the right eye so they're both facing forward in a proper manner. This corrects the wandering eye problem. Now just check the rest of the sequence to make sure we don't need any additional eye keyframes. Now let's have a look at the Modify tab. This allows you to have sliders to control certain areas of the face. So let's go to frame 77, hit the Modify tab. You can see you have different categories. I'm going to select the eye here. And we have an eye blink slider. So let's double click on the muscle section to make a keyframe. And now let's advance a few frames and make a second keyframe. And then we'll take the timeline and put it in between the two keyframes and move the eye blink slider to 100%. Now we have an eye blink. I'm just going to zoom into the timeline here, I think, so we can see things. Now you can drag these keyframes with the left mouse button. So now we have an eye blink. Okay, I'm going to zoom out on the timeline here and just go through this sequence. And I'm thinking about moving the jaw. So go to the mouth section. Here we have a variety of sliders for the jaw. So we'll use this move jaw up and down slider, but first we have this keyframe on 272. I'm going to set a keyframe on either side of it by double clicking and then go back to 272 and do the move jaw up and down on that frame. By adding those two keyframes on either side, what we've done is make sure that the mouth starts in a closed position and ends in a closed position. Now we can go ahead and go back to the first frame and close the face key window and play through our sequence. You now have the information you need to create face key animation inside of iClone.